For 30 years, the world has asked the same question about North Korea. How do we get them to give up their nuclear weapons? We have tried summits, sanctions, aid deals, threats. And after 3 decades, North Korea has more nuclear weapons than ever. Here is the uncomfortable possibility. We have been asking the wrong question. That question assumes the bomb is a bargaining chip, something Pyongyang is holding, waiting for the right price. But what if it was never for sale? What if the bomb is not a chip at all, but an insurance policy, the one thing keeping the regime alive? If that is true, then the real question is not how to disarm North Korea. It is what East Asia looks like once we admit that we can't. To understand why, see the world through Pyongyang's eyes. And Pyongyang has been taking notes. In 1994, Ukraine gave up the 3rd largest nuclear arsenal on Earth. In return, the United States, Britain and Russia signed a memorandum in Budapest, promising to respect its borders. 20 years later, Russia took Crimea. In 2022, it invaded. The promises didn't hold. Then there is Libya. In 2003, Muammar Gaddafi agreed to dismantle his entire weapons of mass destruction program. The West called it a model. 8 years later, a NATO-backed uprising left Gaddafi dead in the street. North Korea watched both and drew a brutal but consistent lesson. The leaders who gave up the bomb did not survive. The one who kept it did. This is not a law of history. It is the story North Korea tells itself, and the story that drives everything that follows. So the world reached for its strongest tool short of war: sanctions. North Korea walked out of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the NPT, in 2003, the only country ever to do so. 3 years later, it tested its first bomb, and the UN Security Council answered with one of the harshest sanctions regimes on the planet. Here is the part that matters. The critics are right that sanctions bite. By most estimates, they have cost North Korea dearly. But look at the result. Through 2 decades of pressure, the weapons program did not shrink. It grew. 6 nuclear tests and counting. Because sanctions are a price, and you cannot outbid survival. Nothing is worth more to Pyongyang than the one thing it believes keeps the regime standing. That is why the bomb was never really for sale. For years, this stalemate had one weak point. Sanctions only work if the powers next door enforce them. And for North Korea, that means China and Russia. In 2026, both chose the other side. To feed its war in Ukraine, Russia turned to Pyongyang for shells, missiles, and, by many accounts, thousands of North Korean troops sent to fight near Kursk. In return, North Korea gets what sanctions were meant to deny it: money, food, energy, and military technology, sealed in a 2024 strategic partnership. Then, in June 2026, Xi Jinping arrived in Pyongyang, his first visit in 7 years. China did not come to pressure North Korea. It came to keep it close, so Pyongyang would not fall entirely into Russia's arms. The 2 governments that could squeeze North Korea are now competing to sponsor it, and the moment the enforcers split, the leverage was gone. With its insurance now underwritten by 2 great powers, North Korea moved up a level. At its 9th Party Congress in early 2026, the regime named where it was headed: more warheads, submarine-launched missiles, SLBMs, attack drones, and a nuclear-armed navy. But the real shift was in the design of the threat. Kim Jong-un described 2 tracks at once: large, long-range warheads to reach the United States homeland, and smaller, tactical warheads aimed at South Korea and Japan. The exact numbers and ranges remain estimates, but the direction is clear. For years, the arsenal looked like a bargaining posture. Now it looks like a second strike posture, built to hold 2 targets hostage at once: the American homeland and America's closest allies in Asia. And that changes everything about the promise that has kept the peace for 70 years. That promise has a name: extended deterrence. For decades, the United States has told Seoul and Tokyo, in effect, an attack on you is an attack on us. Stay non-nuclear, and our arsenal is yours. It held as long as one thing was true, that North Korea could not reach America itself. Now imagine that changes. If Pyongyang can put a warhead over an American city, and at the same moment hold Seoul hostage with a tactical bomb, a cold question appears in every Allied capital. Would Washington really trade Los Angeles for Seoul? Notice what the question does. North Korea does not need to fire anything. The doubt alone does the work. It thins the umbrella quietly without a shot. This is the same erosion we traced in Europe. In East Asia, it lands on the two richest, most advanced non-nuclear states in the region. Which brings us back to the wrong question. For 30 years, we asked how to make North Korea disarm. The honest answer, in 2026, is that we probably can't. Not with sanctions, not with summits, not while two great powers keep the regime supplied. So the real question is the one we have avoided. If denuclearization is off the table, what does East Asia become? The likeliest answer is not war. It is something quieter. Managed coexistence, a region learning to live beside a nuclear North Korea it cannot remove. But coexistence has a cost. Every time the umbrella looks thinner, the same thought grows louder in Seoul and Tokyo. In 2025, one major South Korean survey found more than 3/4 of the public open to building their own bomb. The highest level on record. That is the real stake. Not whether North Korea gives up its weapons, it won't, but whether the doubt it creates pushes its neighbors toward bombs of their own. The danger was never only the bomb in Pyongyang. It is what that bomb makes everyone around it consider. The barrier that mattered here was never a missile. It was a promise, and promises once doubted are hard to rebuild.